This video will take you through the process of preparing CenterPoint to generate 1099 forms. CenterPoint integrates with a product called Atrix to produce the 1099 forms. CenterPoint will feed the data to Atrix, and Atrix will produce the forms for either e-filing or printing. This video will cover the steps necessary within CenterPoint, and the second video in the series will direct you to the process of printing or e-filing the forms within Atrix. Both videos cover the steps needed for all of our CenterPoint products. The first step in preparing CenterPoint to produce 1099s is to make sure that all of your 1099 vendors are marked to produce a 1099. To do this, we can go to Setup and either Vendors, or if you don't have vendors on your list, you can choose Names. Then you're going to highlight one of the vendors that you want to check, and then you're going to click Edit. At the bottom of the screen in the vendor information box is a check mark to indicate that you want to issue a 1099 for that vendor. Okay. You'll also want to make sure that you have their address entered in and that you enter in either an FEIN number or a social security number for the vendor. Atrix does have an option to have the vendor receive an electronic only version of their 1099. They need to consent to that in writing, and then to direct Atrix to produce only an electronic copy of the 1099 for this vendor, you'll need to check the box that they've consented to an electronic 1099, and when you do that, it'll pop up a box where you can enter in the email address that that 1099 will go to. I'm going to uncheck mine, and then I'm going to click Save. If you want to see which vendors have already been marked to prepare a 1099, you can go to the Filter tab, and on the list of filters on the left-hand side, there is an option to prepare 1099. You'll check the option for Yes and add it to the filter and then click Apply. And that'll show you a list of vendors that are already marked to receive the 1099. If you want to get back to the full list, you can go back to No Filter and then close. The next step that you're going to need in producing the 1099s is to import the user-defined reports if you haven't done that already. To check whether you've done it already or to import them, you'll go to Setup in User-Defined Report, Tax Reports. If they're not on the list already, you'll want to click on the Tax Reports button, and you'll select the 1099s that you need to produce, and then click OK. And then that's going to add them to the list. We're going to need to come back here in a little bit. For now, I'm going to go ahead and click Close. We then need to make sure that all of the accounts used to pay these vendors are assigned to those user-defined 1099 reports. Some accounts might be assigned by default, especially if you're using CenterPoint for agriculture. To check which accounts were used in the payments to these vendors and which accounts are already assigned to the 1099 form, we need to produce two different reports. So we're going to go to Reports, into Reports, into the Reports tab. First, to check what accounts were used when paying these vendors, we'll go to Transaction Reports, to Purchases and Accounts Payable, and we're going to choose the report called Purchases by Vendor and Account. I'm going to clear my filter that's there already and click OK. You'll want to set your date range, and then we're going to want to filter for just the 1099 vendors. When I click on that filter, there's a section at the top called Filtering. If it's not open like mine was, you could click on the plus sign to open it. Underneath that is a section or is a filter that's already been defined called 1099 vendors. Then you'll select that filter, and then it'll filter this list on the left for all the 1099 vendors, and you'll move them over to the right and click OK. And then you could click Preview, or you can print that report. That report is going to show us each vendor that was marked to receive a 1099 and the account that was used when you paid them, and then which transactions and how much. Okay, so these are the vendors that I had marked to receive a 1099. This vendor Procast Supplies, the transactions there really aren't transactions that need to be on a 1099. So I don't want to mark that account as one of the accounts to appear on a 1099. So if you have some items that need to go on a 1099 and other items that don't for the same vendor, you want to make sure that those transactions go to different accounts. Okay, so I need to assign the accounts legal, consulting services, and accounting. Next, I want to check to see if there are accounts already pre-assigned to the report. To do that, we're going to go ahead and go to Setup Lists, and to General, and to User-Defined Report Account Assignments. Underneath the Reports section, we're going to filter for the 1099 reports, click OK, and then click Preview. Mine is coming up blank, which means that none of my accounts have been pre-assigned to that 1099. In some versions of CenterPoint, some accounts may already be pre-assigned. To mark or to assign any accounts that weren't assigned that needed to be assigned, I'm going to go back to the User-Defined Report Setup underneath Setup and User-Defined Reports. From this point forward, I'm only going to work with the 1099 NEC, but the steps are the same for all of the 1099s. You're going to edit the report, and on the Account Assignment tab, it'll show you all of the boxes of the 1099 that we produce information for. You'll find the box that you need to assign the account to. If you click on the plus sign next to it, it'll show you everything that's already been pre-assigned. Okay, on the right-hand side is a list of all of your accounts. So you're going to find the accounts that you need to assign. Now, if you need to assign all of the accounts in a category, you could do it quickly by highlighting the category and clicking Assign. But I don't want all of those accounts assigned, so I'm going to open up that section and I'm going to assign just particular accounts. So I'm going to assign my accounting account. I need my legal, and I need consulting services. So I'm going to assign those 3 accounts. When you're done assigning accounts, you can click Save. If you need to assign more accounts, you can just select the line you want to assign them to and assign them. I'm going to click Save on that, and we're going to close out of there. Now I want to check and make sure that before I actually produce the 1099s, that all of the information that should be showing up on them is going to. So to do that, I'm going to go to Reports, into the Reports tab again, and underneath the section called User-Defined Tax Reports, I'm going to now find those user-defined reports. I'm going to highlight the 1099 NEC, and on the right-hand side, I'm going to filter for the same tax year. I'm going to choose my company, and the only report column I need is the total column. There are 3 different levels that you can display this report in. I'm going to choose the most summarized level, but if you need more detail on this report, you can choose one of the more detailed levels. Okay, the rest of the settings, I'm going to leave the default, and I'm going to go ahead and preview it. And you can see that this report is just giving me a summary of this 1099 NEC, showing me who is going to receive the 1099, what box information is going to show up in, and how much. And I can compare that back to the other reports that I already produced. When I'm ready to go ahead and print the 1099, I can either first print this report or go into the Atrix integration. And I can do that by clicking on the Print button at the top of this preview section. That's going to bring up a dialog box. The dialog box gives me a couple different options. If I just want to print the report that I just previewed, I could click Print Report. If I'm ready to go into the Atrix integration, I'll want to first make sure that my registration is good. If not, I'll click on the Register with Atrix and register my product. Once my product is registered, to get into the Atrix integration, you'll click on the Print Tax Forms button, and that'll take you into the Atrix integration. The other way to get into the Atrix integration would be from the prior screen. Instead of clicking on the preview, if I go ahead and click the Print button, it'll bring up that same dialog box. And once again, from there, I can either print this report or I can go into the Atrix integration by choosing to print the tax forms. So from this point forward, you'll want to follow the video on how to produce the 1099s from within Atrix.